Sajid Javid is about to anger a lot of his own voters by banning over-65s from public spaces. Okay, this is getting slightly ridiculous now. This whole debate that started about a year ago when Pfizer and then AstraZeneca announced that they got their new product and everyone's going to take them. And we all watched all these movies in the past where there is some sort of virus and they got the vaccine and everyone's going to be happy, you're going to take it and done. And then they said, initially, November and December, as long as the majority of the vulnerable and the elderly take it, it's fine. And then they said all the elderly and vulnerable have to take it. And then they said everyone in the country has to take it. And then they said children have to take it. And then they say you have to take the second one and the booster. Now they're saying that over 65s, without the third or the booster jab, they will be banned from public spaces. This is according to Sajid Javid, Health Secretary himself, who has now suggested this is a classic government. I don't understand why we keep falling for this. We know what this is. This is the same thing they did a few months ago when they reached the point where younger people had to take the jabs and they threatened them with the vaccine passports or the immunity passports. The whole point of that was to be used as bluff initially, right? Let's just say. And even if that was a bluff, we did it already. The majority of the country have already taken the jabs. And they didn't introduce the health passports then. If they're going to use this again as a bluff, if it doesn't work, what's the next move? Because if it's not a bluff, if it's genuine, if they really want to imprison, for example, the over 65s just because they haven't taken the booster, not really sure if we want to go down the route of France or New Zealand or Australia. We have done things relatively better than those countries, relatively. Not as well as the others, but some of the Scandinavian countries have still done a lot better than us in terms of the measures or lack of measures. But when it comes to the jabs, we were slightly more civilized until now. He's now come out to say that I think in due course, we will have to look at what constitutes vaccination. This is the whole thing. Some people make jokes about this, saying they're never going to be happy. They're like WHO and all these guys until you take the third one, then the fourth one, then a fifth one, then a sixth one, and then take it every 2 months. And that's just your life now. I mean, if that's going to be the case, if you genuinely are worried about mutations, what happened to the mutations, by the way? Because, you had the Delta variant, then you had, but before that, you had all the other ones as well coming out. And then, suddenly, the mainstream media stopped reporting them. Have you stopped having variants now? That's it, right? The variants have stopped, apparently. There's no mutation because they haven't reported anything. WHO haven't said anything. The Department of Health hasn't said anything. If there are, and you have regional ones that are created with the flu, the same thing applies to all airborne viruses. If it's not bad enough, because you can see the rates, cases going down, and in terms of ratio, hospitalization, and all the, of course, the loss of life, that's still all under control. And it's actually, in fact, the flu that's going to come up now, and you've seen the numbers. What's the plan? For years and years, and decades, you're born, you're told to take the flu jab, but the government doesn't force you. It's just part of the culture. A lot of kids take it, and then if you go abroad, you take the other ones. Mandating it through the back door is not the right solution. We don't do this in Britain. They kept telling us they're not going to do mandatory. All these, even if it's a bluff, the rhetoric is there. Mandatory doesn't work because who are you talking about? Are you talking about that tiny minority that haven't taken it? Because it's some people who don't want to take it. They're not going to take it. They are going to just leave the country if they want to. I mean, there are a lot of options. Or they're just not going to go to nightclubs, I guess, or concerts. This is just not the way we do things in Britain. And I think Sajid Javid should be told to change his mind. Because we, until now, have been very civilized. But right now, the government doesn't help themselves. We'll see how it goes in the next few months. And if the over 65s are going to be stopped from coming to pubs, for example. We'll keep you guys posted on the channel because we are the media.